So, hello everybody. This is Augmented Reality Tel Aviv, AWE NITE Tel Aviv, and with our 11th meetup. And today we have an exciting meetup with great speakers that I will introduce in a second. So let me start by sharing the agenda, and we'll take it from there. I'll just start by saying that it was supposed to be an hybrid event, both physical and online, but in the end it ended up online event only. But there are many, maybe advantages to that. So it's streamed live, and you can all join and see it later as well. And as I said, this is the 11th meetup we are holding. It's been a long while since the last one, and we had a pandemic going on, and still going on, unfortunately. But we hope to have another one coming up pretty soon. And as I said, this subject today, I think it's one of the most interesting that we had. It's about AR on location, and the agenda for today is two talks. The first one will be for Megan from Niantic, that will explain about their new platform for real-world platform for augmented reality. And then Justin from Google will talk about Google Maps Live View, and I think that you'll see a lot of interesting things coming up in the future from both these companies, and for everybody that is enthusiastic about AR. I will finish by summarizing the talks and just speaking a little bit about recent news from the AR world and about the Israeli AR community. And yeah, let's go. So Megan, I think that you can start.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you. Great to meet everyone. Let me get the presentation up in a second. Optimize for video. Always don't ever want to forget that part. All right, great to meet you all. I am at Niantic. I came through actually last year through their acquisition of a startup called 60 AI. And at Niantic, I am running the go-to-market strategy for bringing their platform out to developers and brand partners to help developers also build AR experiences. So I'm going to go through quickly with this talk to stick to the 15 minutes so that we can leave time for Q&A, and I have a lot of videos. So apologies, but I'm purposely going to speak fast and kind of slide through some of these. For background, this is a quick snapshot of the evolution of Niantic. For those who don't know, Niantic actually started out mapping at a company called Keyhole that most of our executives are with us today. We're at Keyhole. They went over to Google. We have a great partnership with Google and their investors, and we built Google Earth and Maps, and then spun out to Niantic Labs within Google. In 2015 became Niantic, and then recently we launched our Lightship platform, which is what I'm here to talk to you about today. And so for Niantic, let me just move everybody's beautiful faces out of my way. Sorry, no offense, guys. So Niantic, our mission is to inspire people to explore the world together. And you'll see that through our technology. We're looking to build tech that helps do three brand pillars that matter the most to Niantic. We want our technology to better human life, and we like to see that through three things: exploration and discovery, which you probably see in Pokemon Go and Ingress in our games, through exercise, through getting people out and walking and moving in the world, and then through social experiences that happen in real life. So how do we use AR and our technology to drive people out into the world, to explore new things in real life, but then also do so with their friends and their community. As I mentioned, we've built our platform, which you see back here, which is now called Niantic Lightship. We've built it for our games, and I have this new heavy metal Transformers game coming out in here. And we're bringing pieces of that. So if you see in the green up on the right, the ARDK is the first piece of what we're bringing to developers externally for you to use. And so we'll see that on our Niantic.dev website. You can sign up for beta today. But eventually the goal is to also take the additional pieces that we're building for our games and bring them out to developers. And how Niantic is approaching that is, as we work through these global robust games and we kick the tires on our technology and we build specific experiences both for our games and for our partners, we're fine tuning it and learning a lot from that and then bringing that tech over. So like I said, we started with the AR features, but ideally over the next year or so, you'll see us bring additional features out to developers. And similar to how we have 3 brand pillars for exploration and exercise and socializing, we have 3 pillars for our approach to AR. We're looking at shared experiences to drive that social interaction, understanding reality, which is obviously a need for AR, and then our mapping pillar. So here's where I get into my demos. So here's an example of one of our developers who, within a week, just built this really quick multiplayer experience. They went for a collaborative experience versus a competitive game. And the 2 players are terraforming a planet together. Their devices are aware of what the other player is placing down. They can add on top of it. But the key about this one, which isn't in this video, is you can also have a third party join from home. And they would just show up as a floating astronaut who will also add to and terraform the planet. This is something that we're hearing a lot from brands and customers. The folks hiring the developer studios to build, who are looking for ways to bring people back to their retail stores or to engage them in line at a Starbucks or during halftime at a football game. So the multiplayer is something folks are really excited about. And the team that built that was Trigger. This is an example of I think folks here probably are aware of occlusion, but just a little flag that, you know, we're also at Niantic working on making AR look realistic in the world. And obviously part of that is physics and occlusion. Here are some quick demos too about a few other features that we have. Niantic had already had this great walkable plane and visual effects, and the dynamics and collisions that you see going on with the dice here are things that we've brought in with 60 AI, getting the mesh and the depth and the perception of the space in real time around you so that you can have virtual objects see the object and react against it. And so everything I'm showing in this presentation are things that are available in the ARDK for external developers. The other thing that Niantic's really strong at are semantic understanding. This was something we were really excited about when we were acquired because 60's tech for meshing was at 5 meters in front of you. Combining that with this ability to recognize the sky, this is a very fast demo, so I'll just hit again. To recognize the sky and buildings and foliage and ground allows us to do both up close AR realistic experiences as well as things in the distance. I have another demo of. Here are some demos that our early explorers, what we call our beta developers, have done just playing around with sky segmentation. Because it can see the building, it is still a little bit choppy on the edges, but we're working on all this stuff is in beta. You can have an object, as you see here, look like it's realistically in the world in the distance, but then also with the meshing, have another similar experience up close. And this is a new sample app we just built for our developers, where it's almost Minecraft-like. We're using semantics in a different way. Instead of using them for occlusion, we're using it to build. And so because the phone sees the trees, we're collecting wood. And then eventually throughout this, you collect air from the sky, water, and then foliage, and you build the Niantic airship. So this is part of, once you join our beta program, this is a sample app you'll see in test flight to kind of play around with different ways to think about what you can do with semantics beyond just, you know, using it to block or have for occlusion. And then, like I mentioned, 60 AI came through. Our co-founder is based at Oxford. He's a professor there, and this is a taping he did of our mesh. It doesn't require LiDAR, although it is enhanced by LiDAR. But we're able to build that digital twin of the space in real time as you walk in front of you, and create that 3D map just using your device camera. And so for those who might be familiar with 6D, this will look familiar to you. And here's where some of it comes to life in the demos of how folks have been playing around with this mesh. On the left is just plant generation of 3D mesh reconstruction. So you'll only sort of see the mesh of the room on the left. But here's what one of our developers built. Now that you can see the mesh, how the objects can place around the curves and recognize the dimensions of the space in front of you. So we're really excited to see what developers come up with and do with that technology. And the other thing that we're working toward, like I mentioned before, was mapping. And this is our big North Star and our major focus, in addition to making AR realistic and easy to use for developers. Our team is working at building the 3D map. We're out there scanning spaces ourselves to be able to have this VPS localized technology and have content anchoring. But one of the things I wanted to flag is that we're working closely with our players to build this rich dynamic map. So millions of players in Pokemon Go and Ingress are getting in-game rewards for scanning points of interest and contributing that back to Niantic. And we obviously scan these for sensitive information, but then that unlocks a larger gameplay and a larger game board for players. So they're incentivized because not only they get the rewards, but they get to have potentially Pokestops at these locations that they've scanned. And this eventually will build our 3D map that we're bringing out to developers. It's currently in beta and we're working on it internally, as I mentioned, with trying to test it out in our games. But the goal is to bring this to our platform for external use. And the other thing was work long-term, as I mentioned earlier, is our VPS. We're working on building a visual positioning system for that content anchoring and using those points of interest that our players have scanned around the world to create this visual positioning and better content anchoring for AR. One of the things that we're looking at Niantic, the approach we're taking, which is why it's great to talk with Justin, is Niantic's looking at, like as I mentioned, with the players being the ones to scan, the locations that we're scanning are, I guess, quote unquote, off the map, off the streets. They're like parks or coffee shops or locations that matter the most to that player. So we're getting this really unique map and places to create this kind of content anchoring app based on the player base. And eventually we'd like to have developers who are using our platform also start contributing back and scanning locations and helping build the map based on the places that matter the most to you as well. I might have actually shot through that a lot faster than I expected. I blame my Boston background. Right, so like I mentioned, we're in beta right now. I highly encourage you to apply to join that. You can go to niantic.dev and sign up. The way that we look at who we let on is through your use case. So I do encourage you to share what you hope to build and what you're looking to create, because that's something our team and our executives are always asking about and looking at. Considering we can only let on a certain amount of people, are they going to be the developers that are going to, kick the tires and test the technology and give us feedback specifically on the features I just shared with you today? So do share any details that you can with us so we can help let you in sooner. And we also have a Beyond Reality initiative, which you can apply if you're a game to potentially be published by Niantic, which is also through that publishing button at the top if you're a game studio and interested in just sharing your idea with Niantic and seeing if you might be one of those games I showed earlier that are stemming out of the platform. So again, I think, I don't know, I'd love it if somebody could clock me and tell me how fast that was, and I'm happy to go back and show demos or other videos, but that is the quick and dirty on the Niantic platform.
This was awesome, actually, and I wrote myself down a few questions, and I actually did cover most of them, so this is great. We did get one from the audience even after, I think, the first slide, and I think Oded Sharon. Yeah, the first picture, is it from Dortmund Go Fast? Because I think he recognized himself there in the crowd, so...
It might be. It's before my time, but I will ask. It might be if you were there when they shot out that pink. And it looks like there's the river in a river in the back, right?
That's interesting. I don't know. I haven't been there, but yeah, I think that this we are a small community, and it's a worldwide community. So people are in this together. So this is a fun example of that.
Yeah.
We have a few more questions from the crowd, so I will share them with you. So the first one is about how does Niantic manages the scan data, and probably I think about also privacy, and does it share it with other companies as well?
Yep, that's a wonderful question. We obviously take privacy just as our other companies and counterparts like Google and Apple seriously. So what we've been doing is which is not this one. Here it is. Yeah, we scrub all of the data and remove sensitive information, faces, license plates. I'm going to leave this up because this is a lot of copy, but for those watching can look at this before converting it into a machine readable 3D map. And then even with that 3D map, it's a machine readable map too. So it's removed to the personal information, but then also will be like the digital replication of that space. I hope as we go further, again, like for me, this is more a personal answer to this question as well, versus a Niantic one. But having come from 60, going to Niantic was really a relief and exciting for me and for my team because of the fact that going back to those 3 pillars, especially since they started with PGO and Pokemon Go, that's our internal acronym for it. They truly are interested in building something that just helps people get out and explore and be healthy. And so we're not looking at the data and collecting the data, and we do want to scrub the information and make things anonymous. And Niantic's focus ideally is to build something that can help people live healthier lives and better lives, and help our developers build games that are experiences for brands that do the same.
I think
privacy is something that's truly important to us as people go and do that, and especially as the AR. I mean, Justin, you'll probably talk to this too, but as the space grows and there's a lot that we have to cover. There's a lot of new complications that are going to come up as people have these scans, and we talked about this at 60. We've talked to Justin, collaborated with us at 60 as well, and we talk a lot about and they're thinking about what happens when I scan my space, but I'm in an apartment building and that wall is also shared and somebody else's wall. So there's just a lot that we're highly aware of, and I think taking seriously as we move forward in this digital world. I mean, Justin, feel free to jump in if you want to. I mean, but
I think this is okay. We were following 60 for quite a while, and so I think they also were aware of the problems and took the moral approach to it. So we do hope that this DNA continues where you are now. So we do.
Yeah, Matt would write a lot about it.
Me personally speaking, this is not someone from the crowd. There is more questions from the crowd, but I know that you have to get off. We'll ask one more, and then do you have time for one more, Megan? Or?
Yeah,
okay.
I do.
So Lior Azi is asking, is the mapping of the SDK is for indoor or outdoors only?
No, that's wonderful. Yes, actually, Niantic's focused on outdoors. So when we're looking for experiences from our beta devs, or if we're looking to partner with a customer, we are going to focus on outdoor experiences to start. That is to say that you as a developer can still build things for indoor and can still scan indoor, but when we are collecting this crowdsourced 3D map, it's outdoor.
Interesting. I think it also speaks to the previous question if you think about it a little bit.
Yeah, I would say +1 to what you're exact. That's why.
Yeah, definitely, I understand. There are more questions coming in, but maybe what we could do, and I encourage people to actually contact you.
Yeah.
And we could publish the answers if you'd like. And I think that we had Megan for a very short time period, but it was an awesome talk, and we're really excited to try the new product, the new platform. And yeah, and please come and talk to us again.
Thank you. I apologize for having to leave. I always love hearing Justin talk and love hearing the questions that people ask. So do please email me. We will have much more to come in the fall. And so I definitely want to hear from you and engage with the folks here as we move forward and bring this further out. So thank you. And I appreciate checking in. Again, here's my information below. And Justin, it's good to see you.
It's like the torch is going to Justin. This is like the Olympics here.
It is. Here's the torch, Justin. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the time. Nice to meet you all. Bye.
Thanks, Megan. As always, great to see what's going on from Niantic. So, hey, my name is Justin Quimby. I'm a senior product manager at Google and working on Live View inside of Google Maps. So now I get to do the fun little shuffle to show the right window. This is always the fun part because it's like, yeah, no, don't want to show that. No, that would be bad. Oh, weird. Oh, it's just there. Oh, yes. External. Okay. Ah, there it is. All right. So, hey, like I said, name's Justin Quimby, and today I'm going to talk a bit about Google Maps Live View, which is AR at global scale that we've been delivering over the last few years. So we announced back in 2019 our intention to use localization at global scale to help power navigation inside of Google Maps. And sometimes, people can talk about AR and any new technology really as being a hammer without a nail. And sometimes that's a valid point. And what we saw when we looked at it is in the Maps context was the ability to address one of the long-standing user problems for folks using Google Maps for directions. And that is when folks are outdoors and on foot, and they don't have to travel a long distance, one of the big questions is, which direction do they need to go? I mean, this is the like, hey, you're coming out of a train station, you're coming out of an airport, coming out of a building. Which way do I need to go? I need to know the first 10 steps I should take. And one of the problems is that I think everybody here is aware that sometimes the compass and GPS don't cut it by themselves in urban environments, leading to results like this, where your blue dot is just kind of wandering around, even though you're not moving. And the reason for this is that GPS relies on time of flight between the signal on the satellite and getting to your phone. And in urban canyons like this, those signals actually bounce off of the buildings, setting and messing up that time of flight calculation. And this is on top of all the electromagnetic fields in the urban environment, which confuse the very, very, very small magnetometers in your phone. And so this is where we look to see, could we use imagery? And I always give Megan a little bit of grief that she grabbed this image for her talk from when we were talking about VPS for Google. So I always give her a little bit of grief on that. But what we realized is we could use visual tracking to help deliver position information to make maps better. Now, visual-based motion tracking has been around since the days of the Apollo program. But the challenge that we faced is how can we do this at global scale? And so we took that technology and brought it to global localization within Google Maps to provide a walking navigation experience. And that's built on top of our visual positioning service, combined with AR Core, which provides on-device motion tracking, all of the imagery we've collected for Street View over the past 15 plus years, plus machine learning to help improve our underlying compute models. And that allows for us to take an image, extract visual features from it, compare that against the corpus of data we've got from Street View to provide localization at global scale. Now, that's just one part of it. So just having global localization alone doesn't actually deliver value to users. We've been working on this for a long time. And one of the things here is what kind of UI is understandable to people as their first experience with AR. We did over 120 UI prototypes. This is a fun story about this one on the right here. One of the questions is, how do we show to the user uncertainty? Because we have on the map, there's the arc of the width of the arc on the base map shows how certain or uncertain we are of your heading. And we said, well, how could we bring that into an AR experience? And one of the ideas was, if we're giving you directions, we could have the path be made up of all these little particles. And the more uncertain our orientation is, then the wider the path would be. But as we get better and better location information, then that particle stream gets tighter and tighter, eventually down to a blue line. One of our users in a user study said, why am I following trash? So that didn't come across quite so well, so we put that in the hopper. And we've done a lot of these kind of experiments, resulting in the current experience. And we did a number of internal tests as well, where we had a ton of team fooding. Then we ran through internal dog fooding with Googlers. We worked a preview with the Google Local Guides program, and then next to Pixel users. And here are some of the other explanations you may have seen. I'm particularly fond of, go back. Yeah, I'm particularly fond of Pizza Man, or the pizza guide to show you your way. And you may have seen the fox also as well, helping guide users. So we've come back and forth. We've done a lot of experimentation with these, leading to the final state of the UI. And it works worldwide today. Everywhere we have Google Street View imagery, Live View works. And that's part of what we had to do because of being part of Google Maps, is that when being a Google product, the assumption is it just works everywhere. And we do this through the imagery that we've been collecting for years now. And we've done a lot of work to improve the underlying technology that powers these systems. So we initially started out, it took about 25 days to process the world, all of the Street View imagery. It's less than a week now. We renew thanks to a bunch of algorithmic changes. We actually run changes and run our ML models to improve our algorithms on a weekly basis as well. And we use tens of billions of images to generate the localization imagery, and the system evals on a daily basis in the tens of millions of imagery. And we recently just launched indoor live view in Zurich and Tokyo. And because when I mentioned earlier, like, oh, what's one of the problems people have coming out of a building and trying to figure out which way to go? Well, there are certain locations where people are not, maybe a little discombobulated from travel, and they need a little bit of additional help. So certain malls, train stations, and airports are now getting enabled with indoor live view. And we've done a lot of work on this and are constantly evolving what that UI looks like, as well as how people can find those experiences and providing additional information to users. So on the right here, you can see we're running some experiments with navigation cues. So helping people understand where key landmarks are in their environment, so you can help to start to build up an internal mental model of where you are in the world. Now, it's not just in-app work we're doing. We also have a number of internal apps that we've built to help test capabilities. Here is a test on using live view and to select businesses and then bring up information. So rather than having to see something in live view and say, oh, that's interesting, and then go back to the base map to find it or do a search, instead you can just use live view to understand what you're looking at. And we have a number of apps as well for running user experience testing. So here we ask people, where do you think north is relative to you? And this is part of one of our studies to try to understand how well is people's internal model of the world aligned with where they are in the real world. And we've seen there have been some really fascinating results that have then informed a number of the UI decisions that we've been making. And this these are just the first steps in a very, very long journey. So we're already working on solving global scale AR with global coverage and improving quality and making sure it's got low latency as well. And it's made possible because of this massive investment Google's made in imagery and imagery technology over the past several years. And while we've been working on it for 3 years, there's still plenty of work to be done. And we're really excited about what's coming next. And so there'll be some announcements coming out in the near future. So stay tuned. So with that, thanks. So I will hand the baton back.
Justin, that was an awesome presentation, and you left off with many questions, especially the tantalizing end there. Was about you can always come clean here. No, but I'm really seriously. First of all, I must say that I tried your product several times, and it works like magic in Tel Aviv. So people, and actually in other cities in Israel, it works very well. Amazing job you did there, and understanding some of the underlying problems of how to do that. That's super difficult, and so wow, kudos to you and to your team. So I think it was very interesting. I do have some. You did hint in the end that this is not the end of the journey. So I'm curious, what is the vision that you can share? Of course, that how do you know what? How Justin, you personally see the future of that? Because I think it's only just the beginning, even though it's a long path. This is.
Yeah. I think that AR very much so. New technologies, as I mentioned, new technologies can sometimes be a hammer looking for a nail, and for us, it really comes back to the question of what do people come to Google Maps for? And it's to help them understand what's around them, get directions, discover new places, take trips with more confidence. I remember the days where I would actually have physical paper maps whenever I was going to a new location. And so having a cell phone, having a smartphone now suddenly enables people to travel in a very different way, where you can do almost just-in-time planning or just-in-time understanding the world, where you don't have to figure out what the route is. You can assume that Google Maps or other mapping products will help you find your way. And I think that we started out with navigation, and then we moved on to helping people just with initial orientation. So walking navigation, live view walking navigation helps you get 95% of the way to your destination. We have a feature which if you just select a pin, select a POI or drop a pin on the base map, you can then use live view to figure out which direction that place is from you. So that can help you with just the first 10 steps on your journey. And then for a lot of folks, they can just glance at the phone and look at the 2D map and figure out the route from there. But then, like I mentioned, and I showed that visualization of looking down the street and seeing businesses. Right? And so this starts to get into this idea of Google has a lot of geospatial data. And today Live View focuses on navigation and orientation. So I think that AR, and we've all seen that fantastic and kind of dystopian video called Hyper Reality that was put out many years ago, where basically every surface is covered in digital content. And obviously that's a dystopian future. That is a warning, not a promise. We should not be going down that route. But it does hint at this idea of a combination of the world itself and all of this geospatial data. And how can those two be brought together? And so helping someone understand what businesses are on a street is something that LiveView we've been looking at. And there are a number of other things about bringing additional geospatial data into those environments. And there are a lot of great concept mock-ups that folks have been sharing on Twitter and elsewhere, especially with some of the recent announcement by Facebook with talking about them becoming a metaverse company and a number of other efforts. And the work being done by the work being done by Niantic is also just fantastic as well. And I think just overall that we're seeing an advancement of some of the core technologies that can then enable really new and interesting and exciting capabilities built on top of them. And I do want to give full credit. We have teams at Google who have been working on some of these computer vision problems for years. And the Street View teams themselves, I mean, this is a multi-decade effort. And it's all a creative effort where we're mapping and determining the pose of imagery from Street View cars and then extracting semantic information from those things and being able to do global positioning and all of the ML work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just really excited about the future for AR. That's
a great presentation. Actually, I have so many questions and just general comments like awesome presentation, Justin, from Jonathan Schiffer, and some other people that are asking questions. I want maybe first to ask my own question. How can one gain access, or is it internal product that will only gain features from Google, or do you allow access to developers to use that for their own needs, or do you have plans to do something like that?
So obviously I can't really talk about future plans. That's always one of the dangerous areas for employees of big companies to talk about future plans without formal approval. So what I can say is right now the capabilities for Live View, especially the tight integration with Google Maps and all of our directions, that's within Google Maps itself. Who knows what the future may hold? I'll just leave that there.
Interesting. Some questions from the crowd. Ilan Lee asked if people can actually donate, and help scanning or completing these maps, or help you in any way, doing the scans for you because they want to reach the future so fast.
Yep. Yeah, it's a great question. We do have a number of programs for people to be able to contribute imagery to Street View. And what that then does is that imagery can then be ingested as part of our pipelines, which then helps Live View itself. Folks like Niantic, 6D.ai, and others have been really focused on Matterport as well, are doing a lot of work about like active scanning of spaces. We have not made any announcements about like active scanning mechanics to directly improve Live View, but any improvements in imagery you contribute to Street View will help Live View. Yeah, because it is one of the interesting things is this idea of permissions. Google has spent a lot of time talking with various governments all around the world for the ability to collect Street View imagery and then also publish Street View imagery. And so one of the challenges of user contributions is how those fit in with those legal arrangements and agreements with governments. So there's a lot of stuff there. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to unpack on that simple question. But yeah, if you want to contribute some Street View imagery, please do.
What Megan's mentioned about privacy is one of the driving factors, and so it's very interesting. Another question from Tushar: can Live View work while driving?
So the technology that Live View that powers Live View uses AR Core or AR Kit on iOS devices for motion tracking on the device. It takes and uses imagery from the phone. The technology for localizing a set of images and then providing global pose off of that will work whether you're walking on a bicycle, horseback, in a car, in an airplane. The challenge, though, is it safe to do so? And this is one of the interesting things for airplanes and also for in-dash systems for cars is the question of instrument lock, where people will get obsessed or focus on the screen as opposed to the actual real world. And so I would just say, if you are interested in Live View and you want to see if it works from a car, please be the passenger. Don't try to use it while driving. Use your eyes and look at the real world if you're actually operating.
That's definitely a good advice for anyone who wants to try that. But basically, the technology is fast enough. It's you reckon it will work from the passenger seat?
I have not tried it recently. So I'd say one thing there is that since we do have a number of systems in place around user safety. And one of those is designed so that people don't fixate on their phone and then walk out into a street, walk into a puddle, walk into a fountain or a pool or something like that. And so those systems may trigger if you're in a vehicle driving at 20 or 30 kilometers an hour. So our sort of situational awareness warnings might kick in, so the user experience might not work. From a technical side, we also have done a bunch of tuning around making sure that ARCore and ARKit's motion tracking work well for providing blending local motion tracking on the device with the global pose that's coming in. And if suddenly somebody is moving at 10 or 50 times a normal walking speed, I don't know what that might do to some of those algorithms. But there's no reason in theory why it wouldn't work. It just might require some tuning.
Interesting. I think that we are almost up on time. Maybe do you have time for one more question?
Yeah.
So actually, I have two questions. So choose one, whichever you prefer. One question is from Sharon and about blockchain technologies, NFTs, metaverse. If that connects in any way to the future of the platform. And another question from Lior is about, one of the one of the features of the real world is that environments are very dynamic and change all the time. And how do you handle it?
So yeah, great questions on the crypto NFT question. We've made no announcements around that, and right now none of the systems use any crypto style mechanisms for localization or providing directions. Sorry, what was the second question?
The second one was about the dynamic, change.
Oh, right. Yeah, and so this is actually one of the key questions for us, is because while we do collect a lot of imagery for Street View, some of that imagery gets a little old and stale, and especially over the last 2 years, thanks to COVID, there's been a huge amount of churn in terms of the number of businesses, storefronts being boarded up, et cetera, et cetera. And part of what the teams have been working on over the last 2 years has really been to make those localization algorithms robust in the face of change in those environments. So that involves things like not paying attention to people in the scene, not paying attention to vehicles, and looking at overlying structures, as opposed to, one way to localize might be just try to figure out and do text recognition and OCR on the name of a business. So, oh, this is a McDonald's. And so then, okay, this now says McDonald's, so I know how to get, that's kind of a shortcut. Our systems don't just rely on OCR. And so what that means is, even if it switches from a McDonald's to a Burger King to an Arby's to whatever other fast food restaurant, the architecture of the building, as long as the majority of the architecture of the building is still the same, then we're good to go for providing localization. But yeah, absolutely. If environments change too much, then then that's probably a situation where our localization will not work. But that's a case where, hey, guess what? If the environment has changed that much, it probably will be helpful to recollect Street View imagery in the first place, because that will then provide people with all the other benefits of Street View imagery for checking places out remotely.
Interesting. So Justin, thank you so much for your talk. It was really, really interesting. We hope to have you again when you have something to announce. And I think people are very excited to hear more and learn more about the platform. Yeah, thank you for having this conversation with us.
Yeah, as always, it's great to talk to other AR enthusiasts. So keep up the good fight, folks.
Thank you. Just for the sake of the meetup, our next section will be a short summary of the things that we heard here, some news from the AR world, an announcement from AWE on the upcoming conference. So maybe first I will say a few words about ReSight, because we are the guys that organized this meetup for almost 3 years now, and we are also building augmented reality platform. It's more focused on the indoors and the outdoors, but definitely a lot of the things that there are things that are of interest to us as well. Just to show a few examples of applications that have been built with our platform. And if you want to learn more, you can check out our website or contact me, and I'll be happy to tell you. And I want to say that it's been a long time since we met the community, and it's a little bit hard to do that online without seeing the people and interacting with you guys personally. But this is, this is this kind of time. I do want to say a few things that I think are very relevant to the few news items from the last month that are very relevant to the things that we heard there from Niantic and Google. And I think they are of interest to people that have listened so far. So first of all, Metaverse is kind of like becoming a new hype word. You hear it all the time from everyone. Especially Mark Zuckerberg just announced that Facebook is building the metaverse or a part of it. And as some of you may know, that Oculus Quest 2 gets an AR pass-through API that makes it possible to use the Oculus Quest 2 as AR glasses, or a first very primary version of it. So it's interesting to see what Facebook is actually thinking and working about. And if we actually talked to Niantic earlier on, so they have reached a milestone of more than $5 billion in revenue from Pokemon Go, where the last year was the most successful year. So it's not that Pokemon Go is surviving, it's actually thriving and doing really, really well. Amazon just released an open source 3D engine that is, it's interesting to hear what Unity and Unreal has to say about that. And it's a play into the AR world as well, if you think about it a little bit. And another thing that happened is that Epic Games from Unreal Engine acquired Sketchfab, which is the biggest 3D model repository on the internet. And last piece of news that I want to share with you is that there's been a few things happening with the Israeli AR ecosystem, and I know of a few startups that are actually doing great things. Hope to have them up here in our next meetup. But maybe one of the biggest news is that a new startup called Multinarity just raised $28 million. Really interested to see what they're up to, working on AR from people that actually know a thing or two about AR. And so that's super interesting. A few more announcements is, first of all, that AWE, which is the biggest conference and now affiliate for this meetup and talks, are actually having a physical event again this November in the United States. And if you register with this code here down in the slide, you can get 20% off the ticket price. So this is the biggest event for augmented reality developers and startups. I think if any of you are interested, it's really a good place to show up and meet and network and see all the new things. So highly recommended. And talking about AWE, we are helping together with the OpenAR Cloud and AWE and a few more tech partners. We are actually helping to organize an AR Cloud challenge, which means you could work with tech partners to create a demo, an application that will be showcased during the event. You can win free tickets to the AWE if you become a finalist of this contest. And the registration is happening now. We are part of the organizers, so you can also reach out to me personally if you want more details. It's a good opportunity to get some visibility and to understand more about AR on location and things that have come up during this meetup. And yeah, this is the final slide, and thank you for bearing with us. This is a shout out to the community that this meetup is organized by the community for the community. Whatever announcement you want to make to showcase your project or startup, if you have job openings or you're looking for a job, let us know, and that can feature here in the next meetup, and actually, that makes the community stronger and together. So thank you for staying so far, and hope to see you in the flesh with beer and pizza next time.